If this happened to me, I wouldn't get out of my bed for a month. Hey, what's up you guys? It's Avery and welcome back to my channel. For those of you who have never been here before, welcome. Glad you're here. Let's hang. So in today's video, I'm going to be talking about the books that I read in August and what I have on my TBR for September. I usually feel like creating a TBR isn't really worth it for me most times because I'm such a mood reader that I'll be talking about some books I want to read this month and then I just won't read any of them. But I really feel confident that I'm going to read these books because a few of them I've been wanting to read for a long time and I just need to do it. So I'm hoping that maybe talking about it will hold me accountable and actually make sure that I do it. I don't know, that could all just be BS as well. So like we'll just see what happens, you know? So in the month of August I read 4 books, which isn't a lot for a lot of people, but it's a lot for me. This summer I haven't been reading that much, and so reading 4 this month has definitely been an accomplishment for me. And I feel good about that rate. That rate is about 1 a week, even though that's not exactly what it turned out to be in real life, but that's what it sounds like, and I'm good with that. Without further ado, let's just jump into it and talk about the books that I read and then the books I want to read this month. So the first book that I read this month was Carrie Soto is Back by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I am a big fan of Taylor Jenkins Reid. I think that she's such an interesting author because she writes so well in a way that like really captures my attention. Like I really love her writing style, even if I don't necessarily love the characters or love the plot. So this book follows a woman named Carrie Soto who is basically the best tennis player of all time, and she goes into retirement, but this book picks up maybe 10 years later, or maybe not even 10, like 7 or 8 years after she retires, because this new player has come to take her world record with the amount of grand slams that she's won, and she basically wants to come out of retirement to defend her record. And I am not a tennis girly in the slightest. I don't even think I've ever been to a tennis game in my life / know anything about tennis. So this was a really interesting read because it's very tennis heavy. The book is mainly about Carrie training with her father to take back her title. So overall, I liked the book, but I think I gave it 4 stars. Maybe, I don't even know. I should probably look. I gave it 3 stars, and I just really feel like I have such an interesting relationship with Taylor Jenkins Reid because I really like all of her books. Like, she is such a great writer, but this one was good and it kept me hooked, but I wasn't like obsessed with it. I wasn't obsessed with her as the main character, but I really enjoyed the relationship between her and her father. That's pretty much the biggest relationship of the book, is her father, who is her coach, and it's about like their coach and player relationship as well as their father-daughter relationship. And there's also a romance in it with another tennis player, which is also good. But I would say it was very like tennis heavy and very much about her just like wanting to get her title back, and maybe it was a little unrelatable to me because I've never in my life been so driven to like do something, and she basically just like eat, breathes, sleeps tennis, which is awesome, and I respect that. But it was a little unrelatable for me at times because I'm just like, girl, could not be me, but love that for you. But I would recommend it to someone, especially if you really like Taylor Jenkins Reid and her writing style. I think that she's a great author, and I've always enjoyed her books. I'm really just ready for one to like blow me out of the water. And the next book that I read in August was The Atlas 6 by Olive Blake, and I really enjoyed this book. This book is kind of a dark academia type vibe. It's set in the modern day world, but it's also a world that has magic in it, and it follows these 6 magicians who are asked to join this society called the Alexandrian Society, and it's basically based off of the Library of Alexandria, and these students get access to all of this magical knowledge, and they each have a specialty of what their specific type of magic is. So 6 of them enter the society, but after a year, one of them is going to be eliminated. And so it's this competitive situation, but they also have to work with each other in order to help advance each other's magic. But then at the same time, they're also like trying to decide who they should trust, and It's very like dark academia, secret society, who do we trust, who's gonna try and kill me type energy. And I really liked it. I will say that it is very like intellectual, I want to say, because even though she's talking about magic, she writes about it in a way that like uses real principles of science and physics. And so you're reading these descriptions about magic and you're like, this obviously isn't real, but it sounds like it really could be real. And so you're definitely like reading and trying to like understand the magic system. And it's not just like a fun magic read, like it gets intense at parts of trying to like understand what she's talking about, but I really enjoyed it, and I feel like I haven't really read anything like that. I guess I have read Alone with You in the Ether by the same author, and that also is similar to this book, and you can just really tell that Olive E. Blake is very smart, and much smarter than me, because no part of my brain could come up with the stuff that she comes up with in here. The next book that I read this month, and probably my favorite book that I read this month, was The Girl on the Metro by Christine Fleury. I picked it up at first because, like, she's me. I am the girl who reads on the metro. I guess the subway here in New York is what we call it, but I just thought it was such a cute cover, and the title obviously just like grabbed my attention. It's also a really short book, which I love, and it just seemed like it would be super cute, so I got it from a used bookstore for like $5. And it follows a girl named Juliet who works at this real estate company, and she just doesn't really love her job or her life. She loves to read though, and she loves to watch the people on the train every day that she goes into work with and sees what they're reading and kind of likes to think about their lives. And one day when she's on her way to work, she enters this bookstore by accident where she meets a man who runs a society where he has these people called passeurs, and it's her job to take books out of the bookstore and into the world and give them to the people that they will match up with best. So she kind of like falls into this and starts doing this. And it's just a really cute book. There's a lot of really quotable moments from this book that I really liked. Like I underlined a lot of things, and a big portion of it is about Juliet deciding that even though she loves books and books are important, she needs to also like live her life and not be completely consumed by the worlds that she lives in. One quote that I really like that I'll read is, "She had ended up believing, no, being convinced, that all the world's diseases and all the remedies were concealed between the covers of books. That in books you found betrayal, solitude, murder, madness, rage, everything that could grab you by the throat and ruin your life, not to mention others' lives, and that sometimes crying over printed pages could save a person's life. That finding your soulmate in the middle of an African novel or a Korean tale helped you realize the extent to which human beings suffer the same ills, the extent to which we are alike, and that it is perhaps possible to talk to one another, to smile, caress one another, exchange signs of recognition, any signs, to try to harm others less from day to day." So I just love that. It's definitely a love letter to books and stories and what they can do for people and the empathy that they can give people, and it was really cute. Definitely recommend if you're a book lover, if you like to read on the train. And the last book that I read in August was You've Reached Sam by Dustin Tao. This is obviously a weird cover of it. This is an uncorrected bound manuscript, so it is not the final published version. It's like an ARC, but not even as like ready for sale as an ARC is. I don't even remember where I got this. I think maybe like a used bookstore for like $1 or something, which I thought was a really good deal because this book is really popular and has been. As I was reading, it was definitely obvious that this was not ready for publication. There were a lot of typos and stuff throughout it, but I still got the gist of the story, and I did not like this book. I give this book 2 stars. It started out strong for me, but then as it went on, I just didn't understand the hype behind it because this book has been so hyped for so long. But it's about this girl whose boyfriend, Sam, dies their senior year of high school, and she is dealing with the aftermath of his death and dealing with grief, but she goes to call him on the phone one night just to hear his voicemail, to hear his voice again, and he answers. And so she is able to continue to speak with him even though he's in some sort of afterlife. But what I didn't like about this is that the main character was extremely unlikable. Her name is Julie, and the book also picks up a week after his death, and I felt like every single person in the book was acting extremely unrealistic. This was her boyfriend of like 3 years, and he dies literally a week earlier, and then she's like expected to go back to school and like start acting normal. And everybody's like judging her for not going to the funeral and not going to all the school events in his honor. And I'm like, her boyfriend of years just died, and it's been less than a week, and y'all are expecting her to just like show up and like show out. I mean, I get like people being upset she didn't go to the funeral, but like to these other events, it was just so weird to me that everyone was being so judgmental of her grieving process. I'm like, if this happened to me, I wouldn't get out of my bed for a month. It just seems like it was very unrealistic that people were acting that way towards her. And then I also just didn't love like how you get really zero explanation for where Sam is and how they're able to have this connection. And there's all these just random rules about their phone calls, and he's like, oh, like the calls keep getting shorter and shorter, but like that's just the way it is. And there's no explanation as to like what is actually happening. We have no idea where he is in the afterlife, and maybe that's not the main point, I understand, but at times he would just say like, oh, like we have to go, I can't talk anymore, just trust me. And you're like, okay, like maybe we'll find out later what the deal is, but then no, that never happened. So I just like, it was not good. The writing was very juvenile. I felt like it was just very unrealistic. Not like obviously the magical part of her talking to her dead boyfriend is unrealistic, but I went into that knowing that. Everything else about the story was really unrealistic and just didn't seem the way that human beings would interact with each other at all. So those are the 4 books that I read this month, and now I'm going to talk about a few of the books that I want to read in September. The first book is The Atlas Paradox, which is the sequel to The Atlas 6, because The Atlas 6 ends on a bit of a, not really a cliffhanger, but something happens at the end of the book that is not wrapped up, and you know that we have to figure out what's going on with this one character, and so I can't really talk more about it because it would be a spoiler for the first book, but I want to read this. I just know that it might take me a little while because these are such like heavy books in that they're not just easy reads for you to fly through. They're a little complicated, and sometimes you have to focus while you're reading it. That's kind of why I took a break after I read the first one. I didn't just jump straight to the second one, even though I have it. I just kind of needed like a brain break from it, but I am excited to read it. And the next book that I want to read is Hellbent by Leigh Bardugo. So this is the second book to Ninth House, which I read maybe a year or 2 ago. It's been a while since I read it. And this is the sequel. I also can't say much about this one without talking about the first one, but the first one is also it's also like a dark academia vibe with a magical world that takes place on the campus of Yale University and these secret societies, and it's very similar to the Atlas 6 in energy, so maybe I'm just ready for the fall time with these books. But I need to read the sequel. It's been sitting on my shelf for so long, but I don't remember a lot about the first book, so I think that's why I haven't jumped into this one, is because I need to read like a summary of the first book again so that I can go into this one remembering everything that happened. So I'm a little nervous for that because I really don't remember a lot. So hopefully I'll be able to kind of refresh myself. And the last book I want to try and read in September is The Zookeeper's Wife by Diane Ackerman. And I want to read this because I love historical fiction, and it's been a hot minute since I've read a historical fiction, especially World War II historical fiction. Wait, is this based on a true story? No. It's about a zookeeper and his wife who, they're Polish, and during World War II, they decide to save hundreds of people from the Nazis by hiding refugees in the empty animal cages of their zoo, because their zoo is bombed during the war, and I'm not sure what happens to their animals, but they end up having this empty zoo, and so they end up hiding refugees in the cages, which I think is going to be such an interesting metaphor for the Holocaust, anti-Semitism, just everything that happens. And this also has a movie out that I really would like to watch, so that's also why I want to read the book, so that I can read the book and then watch a movie and maybe even make a video about both of those, because I love doing videos like that. So those are the 3 I want to read this month. I'm currently already reading a book, so maybe I'll be able to do 4 this month again. Cross your fingers for me. I hope I can. But let me know what you read in August. What did you love? What did you not love? And what are you looking forward to reading this month? Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you want to see more videos from me in the future. Also, don't forget to follow me on Instagram and TikTok. I post some bookish content on there as well. Also, if you like any of the jewelry I'm wearing right now, check out my code for Anna Luisa in the description of this video to get 20% off your order. Thank you again for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Peace.